So here's Hannah. Wow, thank you so much. My name is Hannah, grateful member of Al-Anon, and I'm so grateful to be invited here. Thank you so much. It's been a beautiful drive, and it's been great meeting you and your dogs. I am obsessed with dogs, if you don't know that already. My experience is that I grew up in an alcoholic home, and my dad was a drinker. He was also the raging one. He was the one who was violent, and my mom was your typical untreated Al-Anon person that tried to manage and fix everything. And I remember, even as a really young child, being sent into bars to go find Dad. And I don't ever remember my mom being with me. It was just, she had to be out in the car with the baby and another toddler, and at 4 years old, I was supposed to go in and go get Dad out of the bar. And then later on, I remember that it was this this game of cat and mouse, and my dad would always switch bars, and my mom could always find him, like without technology. And we would get in the car and we would drive around, and I remember she would drive up and down the aisles of cars at Kmart parking lot, find it, because the bar was across the street. And so once he was found, he would switch to another bar, and the whole thing would happen over and over again. And then it progressed to my mom every night would sit on the phone and call all of the list of bars, tell him to come home, it's time for dinner. And I never realized this until recovery, that we never ate without him. Like, it could be 10 o'clock at night, and we're not going to eat till he gets home. And I'm like, why? Why did we do that? Why couldn't we eat before he came home? But we never did. We always had to get him home before we could eat. And so we often ate late a lot. And like I said, my dad was very violent and a rager. And so it didn't matter if he was drunk or sober. He was just angry all the time. And so that's why I didn't really think alcohol was the problem. I thought it was his anger issue. You know, and I'd hear people talk about, oh, when he's sober, he's a great guy. And when he's drunk, he becomes this other person. That was not the case in our house. And in fact, I preferred that he passed out, because then we wouldn't get beaten for some weird random thing. He wouldn't yell, because it just was constantly walking on eggshells. And, you know, always like, what am I going to walk into today? How is Dad's mood today? What is Mom doing? Can I bring a friend home? Probably not. It's not worth the risk. That kind of navigating through this situation. And at my saving grace was going into fantasy. I spent a lot of time of just dreaming, daydreaming, and I didn't realize till later that that's what kept me alive, or that's what kept me to survive the alcoholic home and hide a lot. I was the kid who would hide under the bed or hide in the closet, just not to be seen, because that way I wouldn't get in the way or blasted or beaten. And yeah, so it was so I got lost in fantasy. And I always was so fixated on that narrative of Prince Charming coming. Something's got to rescue me. And we didn't grow up with religion, but then I tried to find religion on my own and ask God to help me, to save me and get me out of this home. And it would never happen. So it was this love-hate relationship with a God. And, I approach God like I would like any authority figure. Like, what can I do to be a good girl, please you, and then get rewarded? And I felt cheated a lot because I'd do these good things and I wouldn't get rewarded. I'm still living in this life. And then I had a sister who acted out like I was the one who hid and stayed invisible. She was the one who went out and vandalized and ran away from home and did all that stuff and getting arrested. And she then took her own life after that was all done. And I was suicidal as well at the time. For most of my childhood and my young adulthood, I was suicidal and full of depression. But she committed suicide when she was 16. And I remember not being surprised at all. Like, who wouldn't commit suicide? I mean, it made total sense to me. And then I was also angry at her because she did it first. She did it before me. And I was jealous because, oh, well, she got to escape. I'm still in this hell. And then I felt like, oh, well, I can't commit suicide now because I couldn't put my brother through it again. Because I had a younger brother too. And so I just carried this resentment and this bitterness as I went into adulthood. And like I said, fantasy was my survival tool. And but it did get me in a lot of trouble later on because then it progressed, like the disease always progresses. And I craved male attention. Again, that Prince Charming. So I'd look for it. I'd try to get it. I manipulate but if the guy was an alcoholic, I was like, nope, too much like dad, can't do it, run the other way. And especially someone who drank, who had an anger problem. I was like, nope, run the other way. And so I thought, oh, well, see, I know how to do this. I know how to pick the right guy. Just don't pick someone like my dad. But the problem is that I kept picking and getting into relationships with other untreated adult children of alcoholics, which is just as sick and crazy and insane without alcohol present. So, and what I didn't know what I was doing was I kept finding men and making them my higher power. So I had this higher power with wore different pants, basically. So run of them. And they'd always failed with, of course, pain and sorrow and drama. And then I tried lots of different things. I tried going to therapy and reading every self-help book that ever came out in the whole wide world, and watch talk shows to listen to experts. Like, how can I fix myself? Because I knew I was messed up. I knew that I was like so depressed and suicidal. And then I came into Al-Anon because of a breakup. And for the first 2 years that I came into Al-Anon, I only went to like a meeting or two a week. And all I was interested was in venting. Like, I don't want to hear the opening. I don't want to hear your steps. I don't want to hear traditions. I don't want to read the literature. Just let me talk. And there was so much anger that was coming out. But so I wasn't getting much out of Al-Anon because I wasn't putting much in. I was just getting some temporary pain relief and not really getting much out of it. And then I met the next higher power, and he was going to be the one this time. And I said, I don't need Al-Anon because I got my Prince Charming. And you know how well that goes. And the first 6 months was on cloud 9, like, oh, honeymoon period, this is the best. And the next 6 months it spiraled down into ball of flames. And what I realize now is that we were very sick people. We were two people that were filled with self-hatred, trying to give love to one another. And he, at the end, he broke it off with me and said, I can't do this anymore. You're pathetic. You're too needy. I don't even think I can be friends with you. I mean, just like when your higher power tells you that, that's like, I mean, hopeless. And I begged him to stay. I said, you know, please stay. I'll go back to Al-Anon. I'll get better so we can get better. And he said, nope. And that was it. That was my bottom, actually. Because usually when a relationship ends, I'm just like, okay, I'll just find the next guy. I'll find another guy. Someone else will be out there to love me. But this time was different. This time it was like, nope, I don't have that thought. It was more, oh my gosh, I'm unlovable. It's not possible to be loved by anyone. Obviously proven by all these failed relationships. So I was like, I can't go on. And during that time, I pulled out an old phone list from the first time I was in Al-Anon and called someone and went back. And this time, I actually experienced step 1. I was actually powerless and was able to admit it. And desperate. Like I heard yesterday in the share about the gift of desperation. And it was either I do this program like you tell me to, or else I die. I mean, it was life or death for me. So, came in this time super broken, just in a lot of pain. And I asked someone to be my sponsor, and she said, let me pray about it for a month. Are you kidding me? I thought I was supposed to get a sponsor. Anyway, I felt like in this holding pattern, like, okay, well, I can't ask anyone else because she's taking a month to pray about it. And so I just kept going to meetings. She came back a month later and said, yes, I will sponsor you, but I want you to call me every day. And that's the way I'm sponsored, and that's the way I sponsor. Went, every day? Oh, I don't talk to anyone every day. And my fear was, if I talk to her every day, then she'll get to know me, and then she'll see what a piece of crap I am, and she'll reject me. And so, but still, I was desperate enough, so I said, okay, I'll do it. And that was, she was a lifesaver for me. So on to steps 2 and 3, and I'm working with her, and she's, so of course I come in with a punishing God, although I believe there was a loving God for you all, but not me, because, you know, I'm so unique. And so she's trying to help me, you know, kind of find a higher power of my own understanding. And we're in this discussion, and she goes, well, what do you think about a male gender God? How does that fit for you? And I said, not good, not gonna do it, hate men, they use me, they abuse me, so forget it. Not gonna happen. And she said, well, okay, how do you feel about a female pronoun for a higher power? Like, nope, not doing that because I hate women more than men. So it was really like, okay, what do I do with her? Jesus, we got to get her a higher power. So actually it started with, okay, let's talk about the qualities of your dogs. Because I had a female dog, I had a male dog. What are the qualities that your dogs show? And I said, well, yeah, they've never hurt me. They love me unconditionally. They've never betrayed me, cheated on me, whatever. So that's how it began. I'm like, okay, I can work with this. I can work with the qualities of my dog and apply them to a higher power of my own understanding. And that's how it began for me. My higher power I don't view as a dog, but the qualities are there and it's progressed, and I'm really grateful for that. So come to step 4, and I have now this woman that I asked, she's someone who is religious. She goes to church every Sunday, but she doesn't talk about that with me. I mean, she uses language like higher power, thank goodness, because if she used religious terms, I wouldn't have ran. I would have just bolted. But she seemed really prim and proper to me. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to tell her all these things that I did with men in trying to get the attention of men. And I lied, I manipulated, I didn't care if the guy was married, engaged, in a relationship. If I was in a relationship, I would cheat in my relationships because more attention is just better. And so I was so focused on that's why it didn't matter to me if they were in a relationship. And I have joked about how hard it is to have that addiction. Like, if I could go to the store and buy alcohol and drink it and get drunk, that would be easier than me having to dress up, do my hair and makeup, and then go to where they work to accidentally run into them. And what do I say if the wife is there or whatever? And where do I hide the bodies and all that? Too much work. That's too much work. So, and doesn't guarantee that you're going to get the guy in the end anyway, which, again, is it worth it? And, so anyway, so I'm going to have to tell this prim and proper sponsor who goes to church every Sunday what I've done. And I was really fearful she was going to reject me for sure. And when I told her, her response, I'll never forget it because it was a game changer for me. She said, of course you did those things. You were desperate for love. How else would you have acted? And that response and not getting rejected was the first step for me to have some hope and some faith and to forgive myself. Because of course, when I'm living like that, doing all those things, I have so much shame. I have so much shame around it. And I hate myself. There's self-hatred when I'm doing actions like that. So I'm just so grateful. And I also want to say that in the 4th step, like, then I had moved on to another sponsor years later. And, I liken the 4th step to, like, there's a celebrity dog trainer on TV, and he teaches people how to train their dogs. And he has that keen sense where he can see a dog and see, like, if something happens, something triggers, the dog goes into a spiral in its brain from fear, panic, attack within 0.2 seconds or something. And that's what I do. When I'm triggered, I go into fear, panic, attack. Or hide, or run. It's usually run. I don't attack. Because I'm so non-confrontational. But anyway, so when that happens, he would poke the dog in its neck with his 2 fingers. And he just go, psh. And his theory is that interrupts the dog's brain from going down that spiral, so he can introduce a new behavior. And that's what my sponsor does, you know. Like when I call her, that's what every tool in Al-Anon does for me. It's a psh to the neck. Stop! Stop going. Don't go into homicide. There's tools. And, you know, it's like, I remember one time I called up my sponsor and said, these stupid neighbors, they're just pissing me off. And she goes, get out your book. And that's her first poke, right? And then, I'm like, that's not going to help. There's nothing in the book that's going to help me. She goes, open to the index. I'm like, second. I'm like, there, under S, there is no reading for stupid neighbors. I'm looking at it right now. And she goes, well, how about something on detachment? Or keeping an open mind. And I'm like, oh, all right. You know, open book. And the way she does it, like, read a paragraph. Okay, what does it mean to you? Let's talk about it. So that's the get me out of that spiral, put in a new idea. That's what this program does for me all the time. And then, you know, by the end, I've got my serenity back and the neighbors are still alive. So, good, a win-win for everybody. So step 5, there's a question in a piece of literature that asks, in regards to step 5, what is the core belief that causes me grief? And when I run my steps, and if I do it on a certain situation, because when I'm triggered by a certain person, place, or thing, I pull out the column method, the AA's column method. I like to do that quick column method, and then I go through the 12 steps in 15 minutes, which is a worksheet tool that is available. And the question for step 5 is, what is the core belief that causes me grief? And I will tell you 99% of the time, the root of all my resentments, anger, insanity is the core belief that says, if you, he, she, they, it, the government, the traffic would do the thing I want them to do or act the way I want them to do, then I would be okay. That causes me the most unmanageability in my life when I think that way. When I think that if you would act a certain way, then I would be okay. Probably the second core belief that causes me a lot of grief is I'm not blank enough, fill in the blank, good enough, tall enough, smart enough, pretty enough, whatever enough. And that's like the exact nature of my wrongs. That's what makes my life unmanageable. Okay, step 6. To me, it's about the willingness. And there's a reading that I'd like to just read an excerpt in regards to willingness in step 6 in our book, Past Recovery. And it says, many years ago, I bought my first electric sweeper. I brought it home and I put it in the living room where it didn't do a thing. I tried to push it around the room. While it was hard to push, I could move it, but it didn't remove any dirt. When I plugged it into the wall, however, it began to hum. The power was there. To get it to do the work, all I had to do was put my hand on the handle. From then on, it was easy. So for me, this is about the willingness and my footwork, my part, so God can meet me and help me remove the character defects. Remember early on, my first sponsor, I had so much resentment against that boyfriend who broke it off when I hit my bottom, and she said, I want you to pray for him. Hell no, I'm not praying for that guy. No. I go, maybe I'll pray for him if I get married, win the lottery, become queen of some land. Maybe I'll pray for him then. I don't know. I don't know even that. But she said, do it for 2 weeks. 2 weeks every day. Pray for him. And I had to start with what I didn't know was called the son of a bitch prayer. And be like, okay, my prayer, help the son of a bitch. The end. That's all I can do. That's all I can do. I cannot pray for his happiness and his well-being, but God will meet me where I'm at. And I'm willing to do that much. And then it may, get better. But it actually took me 2 years for praying for him, because I had so much resentment. And sometimes I'd take it back and let it go, and take it back and let it go. So, anyway. Step 7, humility. I had a hard time with that word, equating it to humiliation. But humility, what I've learned in the program, means I'm right-sized, I'm teachable. We talk about the program is not a ladder but a circle, so I'm equal with all of you. Not one person is above or below. And I also heard that comparing my insides to other people's outsides, if I do that, I will lose every time. And so when I humbly ask God to remove my shortcomings, this is the way I'd like God to do it. Take out your magic wand, go bing, they're gone. Voila, go on your way. But actually what I've learned is it's not that easy sometimes, because my God, having a sense of humor, says, okay, you want to, you want to get rid of this character defect? Great. I got the best person in mind for you to help you do that. He is the jerkiest asshole put in your face. And this person is going to help you work your program. And I mean, there have been some people, and if it weren't for them, I wouldn't stand up for myself. I wouldn't set that boundary. I wouldn't be able to say no and mean it. And, like that boyfriend, I mean, because it was such a honeymoon period at first, and then it fell down, it just crashed and burned really fast. I feel like it had to be done that way, otherwise I would not come with the gift of desperation into the program. Because what I would have done, if if it was a wishy-washy situation, or if it wasn't that great in the beginning, I would try to stay and save. I would stay with this guy for the next 40 years, trying to recapture the first 6 months of the honeymoon period. But God does for me what I can't do for myself. And that guy was not willing to budge. So, and that was a good thing. I thought it was the end of the world, but later realized it was such a miracle and a God thing that I did not stay with him. And there's a saying that says, why, God is trying to tear apart what I'm trying to hang on to. Why am I fighting so much? Steps 8 and 9. Making a list. I learned in program to put myself at the top of the list, because I've harmed myself most of all whenever I've harmed other people. And the first time I did my step 9, I wrote checks to these old employers that I stole from. That was the first thing I did. And man, that was hard. I did not want to give up any money, because I was, I mean, I'm not rich, so I didn't want to give up any money, but, and I thought, well, they're faceless corporations. They don't need it. you know. So, but all right, I'm willing to do what the program tells me, and I wrote out checks. And I thought, oh, maybe they won't cash them, and I still did my 9-step. Ha ha. I win. Keep the money too. And no, they cashed them. They cashed them. And I thought, not even a thank you note? Really? Like, no thank you. Like, hey, thank you for stealing from us and then paying us back. Had to let that go. Anyways. But what helped me a lot with the direct amends is that constantly being told, let go of the outcome. Because if I'm going to go into the 9-step with expectations, I'm going to be so disappointed. You know, I want a certain outcome, and what happened was I got a lot of different outcomes that I did not expect. I got some people, I don't even remember that. Don't know what you're talking about. Got some that were great, thank you, have a nice life, stay away from me. Some none at all, no response at all. Some were inappropriate, like, oh great, can we sleep together then? Let me call my sponsor and ask her. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, step 10. This keeps me from living unconsciously. Like, take that daily inventory and be aware of my actions and my thoughts, and are they serving me today? So it's kind of this, always this, I don't know, maintenance, keeping things working well. I you know, want to always, I do my routine, which is really good for me. I work well within guidelines or routines. So I have my meetings that I go to. I have my days that I talk to my sponsor each week. I have the days and times, you know, I speak with my sponsees, and that works for me to keep me, keep my recovery going. So, recently I did have a argument with my husband, and I thought, you know, one of the biggest fights we had was I found a phone number in his wallet with a girl's name on it. And what did I do? Here, I didn't have someone to go, I went into fear, panic, attack mode, called the number, and who is this? I found your phone number in my husband's wallet, and she said, and I said, who is, and I said the name, and the woman on the other end says, that is my 9-year-old daughter. Who is this? And I went, click. Oh my God, what happened? What did I do? And then step 10, promptly admit it. I called my husband and I said, hey, I did this thing. I went through your wallet. And now this, and he was like, that phone number is a phone number of his daughter's classmate, so they could plan a play date. And talk about, you know, when jumping to conclusions really hurts people. And I had to do a step 10. I had to apologize to that woman. I had shared about it in a meeting because I need to admit to other human beings what I did. And and he's, you know, my husband said, don't you dare do another thing. Let me clean up this mess. You better hope my daughter doesn't lose a friend because of this. And talk about, oh my gosh, the regret from reacting rather than responding. and jumping to conclusions without pausing when agitated and maybe calling somebody or maybe doing something before I go out there and create wreckage. Anyway, step 11. Well, I love step 11 because it says I only have to pray for the knowledge of God's will for me and the power to carry that out. And I don't have to figure it out, you know? That's a thing in Al-Anon says, figure it out is not an Al-Anon slogan. Well, great. Well, what am I going to do with all my time then? You know, if I'm not figuring stuff out and figuring out you and your life and everything. So it helped me develop a relationship with God because I have 3 different gods that I have had that I turn my will over to, and that is the Santa Claus God. You know, I give you a list of stuff, you give it to me if I'm a good girl. There's the loophole God, which is the most diabolical one, because if I pray for something, it might be a loophole. Like if I pray to win some money or something, and then not knowing that, oh, wait, you have to be in this horrible car accident, lose your limbs, and then you'll get some insurance money. And that's the way that's the crazy making in my head that, oh my gosh, I got to figure out all the loopholes that could happen because apparently I don't trust God. And then someone had told me about the Monty Hall God. So we play Let's Make a Deal. I'll do this. I might trade this for what's behind door number 2. And it's all just sick games. And so, you know, today, what I've learned is I can talk to God like I talk to you. I don't go up to you and recite these words at you and then walk away, you know. I don't need to, hey, let's make a deal. For that dog, I will give... But I've also expressed that God does care about what I want, so I can tell God what I want, but I have to trust that His will, it's His will, whether that is good for me or in the big picture it's not, because I can't see the big picture. And for instance, my husband and our daughter started driving a couple years ago. 2 weeks after her driver's license, we bought her this little putt-putt car. 2 weeks after she got a driver's license, rolled it out in the desert. And so, okay, she was fine and everything, but so we thought about getting her another cheap car, and we said, you know, we let her in on the discussion, what would you like? Oh, you know what she wanted? She wanted a sports car. And I go, okay, well, you know, what I've learned is you get to say what you want. You know, the minority voice gets to be heard. You get to say what you want, but we as the wiser parents know that that is the most terrible idea. Especially when we're paying the insurance. No, you get a sports car when you are on your own. So, you know, I think about God like that, you know, like I can ask for what I want, but okay, I trust that you are more wise and that you have my best interest at heart. And that was really hard to embrace, coming in with a punishing, hateful God to go, God wants me to be happy, joyous, and free? What? It must be a trap. It's a trap. Or God has my best interest at heart? That's some weird stuff. But wow, I'm afraid to believe it. I want to believe it, but I'm afraid to. But I've come to believe, like the second step says. Let's see here. Okay, We're in the home stretch. Step 12, spiritual awakening. To me, it's like a slow lifting of the fog. And sometimes I don't realize progress until some time has passed. Years go by and I can look back, go, oh, that was a miracle, not a not a horrible thing. And that God was working in my life. I couldn't see it then. So, this program has been a lifesaver for me so much. It has turned my life around. I can't even believe it. And I just love to sponsor my sponsees and see newcomers blossom in the program. That is like so amazing. And I have so much gratitude. And I tried to cure the disease myself. I tried to fix myself. And it's like an Al-Anon who tries to fix their alcoholic. I have isms up here, and a sick mind can't fix a sick mind. And I have to admit that I'm even powerless over my own disease. And I use the tools. I love this program. I am devoted to this program. And before program, it feels like a past life, but I don't want to ever go back there again. And that kind of is part of the motivation to stay in program, because I'll meet people in my workplace or something, and I go, ugh. That's me without program. Holy crap. I'm going to go to a meeting right now. Get me out of here. Because then I'm reminded, and because I don't want to get so confident that the disease can't come back. It's just in remission. And all the program stuff is my whatever therapy for that. It comes up. I still have my moments and everything. But before program, I had a hateful higher power. I came to believe that Hannah could restore Hannah to sanity. I turned over my will and my life over to Hannah every day. I thought Hannah could remove Hannah's character defects. And then life is a dumpster fire and a shitstorm when I do that. So this program helps me stay sane. I have serenity. I have happiness. I have a good life. Which I never thought could really happen. So instead of surviving, today I'm thriving. I don't get just some pain relief from Al-Anon, but I get a life full of serenity, peace, some beautiful, loving relationships and friendships. And so this is my spiritual home. And thank you so much for welcoming me here and letting me share my story with you all. Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. I'm Hannah. I have a quick PS about the making amends, because with all those women that I hurt when I was in affairs with their husbands or their boyfriends, and luckily I was never caught, but I had to do a living amends, and because it would injure them if I came forward and said, hey, I was in a relationship with your husband. And my sponsor says the way you love women, the way you treat your women friends today is your living amends. And I don't do that anymore. And then I'm just so grateful because that I was never caught, because people murder people over that kind of stuff. They do, like Datelines, always affairs, or life insurance or something. And and I was not even, I didn't care about my safety because I was focused on getting that male attention. But thank God I'm alive to, I wasn't murdered, because it's real. People murder people over that type of thing. So, I forgot to